Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into Russian crypto.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Specifically, their mining regulations. Russia's always been kind of a wild card in the crypto world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what's going on over there now? We've got this recent article from Cointelegraph laying it all out. Ready to unpack this?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so the big news here. Russia's implementing a 6-year ban on crypto mining.
Wow.
Yeah. In 10 specific regions. It starts January 1st, 2025. It's a full moratorium until March 15th, 2031. So it's not like a complete shutdown of crypto in Russia,
Right.
but definitely a sign they're proceeding cautiously.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't totally out of the blue. Russia's been trying to figure out how to regulate this industry for a while now, and energy consumption has been a major sticking point, especially as winter approaches.
Yeah, the article talks about that, concerns about potential energy blackouts, especially during those harsh Russian winters. Makes you wonder if they jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah.
Legalizing crypto mining without fully thinking through the consequences.
Possibly, but what's interesting is they're taking a multi-pronged approach. So alongside those blanket bans, we're also seeing these seasonal restrictions on crypto mining in 3 key Siberian regions: Irkutsk, Buryatia, and Zabaykalsky. And these restrictions kick in during those peak energy consumption periods.
Siberia. That's prime mining territory though, right?
Exactly.
Wide open spaces, cold climate. You'd think it'd be ideal for energy-intensive operations like mining.
You would think so, yeah. And that's what makes these restrictions so significant. They're essentially saying we're open to mining, but not at the expense of our energy grid, especially when demand is high.
So they're trying to find a middle ground. But wouldn't those seasonal restrictions make it difficult for mining companies to plan and invest? Is that really a viable long-term solution?
That's a great question. And it's one that mining companies are going to have to grapple with. They'll need to carefully calculate their costs, factor in these downtime periods, and perhaps even explore alternative energy sources to remain competitive.
Speaking of which, the article mentions that Russia's cryptocurrency mining laws were signed in August and October of this year. Is there anything in those laws that addresses these energy concerns?
While those specific laws don't directly address alternative energy sources, they do lay the groundwork for how mining will be regulated moving forward. And this focus on regulation is likely to influence how mining companies approach their energy strategies. It's almost like they're testing the waters. Full bans in some areas, a more nuanced approach in others. Perhaps they're trying to figure out what works best before implementing a nationwide strategy.
Interesting. The article also pointed out that initially the plan was to ban mining entirely in 13 regions, including Irkutsk. What happened there?
Well, it seems like there was some pushback, particularly regarding Irkutsk, and for good reason. This region is home to Bit River's first and largest data center, launched back in 2019.
Bit River. They're a pretty big player in this space, right?
Absolutely. They're one of the major players in Russian crypto mining. And what's telling is that they declined to comment on how these new restrictions might impact their operations.
Their silence speaks volumes, doesn't it? Suggests they're still assessing how these restrictions will impact their bottom line. Could this push them and other big players towards renewable energy? That's a question we'll have to keep our eye on.
Definitely. Their response, or lack thereof, could signal a broader shift in the industry. But let's not forget, Irkutsk remaining a mining hub, even with limitations, that's significant. It shows that Russia recognizes the potential economic benefits of this industry, even as they try to manage the energy concerns.
It's a balancing act, for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how they navigate this moving forward. So you've got these blanket bans, seasonal restrictions, and major mining companies trying to adapt. What does this all mean for the global crypto landscape?
Well, Russia's approach is definitely being watched closely. They're not the only country wrestling with this issue. You know, the energy-intensive nature of mining is a global concern. And how they balance innovation with sustainability, it could set a precedent for other nations.
Yeah, it's almost like a microcosm of the larger crypto conversation, isn't it? Huge potential, but
Yeah.
with some serious growing pains. And, this whole idea of seasonal restrictions, it feels pretty unique. I haven't seen that approach anywhere else.
Yeah, it really highlights how intertwined crypto mining is with the country's energy infrastructure. It forces us to think about those trade-offs. Can we really support this technology if it means jeopardizing essential services, especially during those peak demand periods?
So you're saying it's not just about Russia, it's a global wake-up call.
Yeah, precisely. As more countries solidify their stance on crypto mining, I think we'll likely see a greater emphasis on finding that sweet spot between innovation and sustainability. Whether that means incentivizing renewable energy, implementing similar restrictions, or even exploring entirely new consensus mechanisms. That remains to be seen.
Hold on, back up a second. You mentioned consensus mechanisms. For those of us who aren't crypto whizzes, could you break that down a bit?
Of course. It's the heart of how cryptocurrencies work. Basically, it's the process that verifies and adds new transactions to the blockchain. The most common one you've probably heard of is proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses. Requires a lot of computing power, hence the energy concerns. But there are alternatives like proof of stake, which are much less energy intensive.
Okay, so you're saying there are potentially less energy-hungry ways to do this whole crypto thing.
Exactly. And as the conversation around sustainability heats up, we could see a shift towards these alternative mechanisms. That could be a game changer.
All right, back to Russia. I'm curious what surprised you the most about all of this.
I think the regional variations are pretty striking. You've got outright bans in some areas, these seasonal restrictions in others. And then you've got Irkutsk, a major mining hub essentially getting a pass. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
It seems like they're really trying to tailor their strategy to each region's specific circumstances and needs, almost like a cautious experiment.
And that's what makes it so intriguing. They're acknowledging the energy concerns while still recognizing the economic potential of mining. This could be a testing ground for a more comprehensive nationwide strategy down the line.
It'll be fascinating to see how this unfolds. Will other countries follow suit with this regional approach?
It's certainly possible. Every nation has its own unique energy landscape and economic priorities. What works for Russia might not translate perfectly elsewhere, but the core challenge remains the same: finding a way to harness the power of this technology without compromising sustainability.
And that brings us to the big question. Given all this, do you think we'll see a global shift towards more sustainable mining practices?
I think the pressure is mounting as awareness of the environmental impact grows and regulations tighten. Mining companies will have to adapt. We're already seeing some movement towards renewable energy sources and more efficient mining hardware.
So it's not just about governments cracking down. It's also about the industry itself stepping up and finding solutions.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the role of individual investors and consumers. As awareness grows, they can demand more sustainable practices from the companies they support. It's a collective effort.
It really feels like we're at a turning point. This could be the moment where the crypto industry goes from being seen as an energy hog to a pioneer in sustainability.
It's certainly a possibility, and that's the exciting part. We're witnessing a technology in its early stages, grappling with real-world challenges. How it evolves will depend on the choices we make today.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive into this Russian crypto conundrum, I have one final thought-provoking question for you. Given everything we've discussed, the bans, the restrictions, the energy concerns, do you think we'll see a shift toward more sustainable mining practices?
It's certainly a possibility, and perhaps even a necessity. As the industry matures and regulatory pressures mount, I think we'll see more mining operations exploring renewable energy sources, optimizing their processes for efficiency, and perhaps even experimenting with entirely new consensus mechanisms that are less energy intensive.
Or will governments and mining companies find themselves increasingly at odds, each pushing their own agenda? It'll be fascinating to see how this all unfolds. And that, my friends, is the beauty of a deep dive. We've uncovered the facts, explored the nuances, and now it's up to each of us to draw our own conclusions and ponder the possibilities. Keep those minds curious. And we'll see you on our next deep dive.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're at a crossroads here. This incredible technology has the potential to revolutionize so many industries. But there's no denying the environmental impact is a big concern.
It's the classic dilemma of progress, isn't it? Innovation always comes at a cost. The question is, can we find a way to reap the benefits of crypto without paying too high a price, both literally and figuratively?
You know what strikes me is how Russia's approach is almost a microcosm of this larger debate. They're trying to find that balance, embracing innovation while also safeguarding their energy grid. Exactly, and their approach with these regional variations and seasonal restrictions, it could be a model for other countries grappling with the same issues. It's a way to test different strategies and see what works best in different contexts.
It makes you wonder if we'll see a ripple effect across the globe. Will other countries adopt similar approaches? Or will they come up with entirely new solutions?
That's what's so fascinating about this space. It's constantly evolving, and as more players enter the game, we're bound to see a wider range of perspectives and strategies emerge.
And speaking of perspectives, let's bring this back to you. Knowing what you know now about Russia's approach and the broader challenges facing the crypto mining industry, what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll see a meaningful shift towards more sustainable practices, or will it be business as usual with profits taking precedence over the planet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't have a crystal ball. But what I can say is that the pressure is mounting. Consumers are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of their choices. Governments are starting to take notice and implement regulations. And even within the industry itself, there's a growing recognition that sustainability can't be ignored.
So you're saying there's reason to be cautiously optimistic.
I think so. The conversation has shifted. We're no longer just talking about the potential of crypto, we're talking about its responsibility. And that's a crucial step towards finding solutions.
Solutions that could not only benefit the crypto industry, but also set a precedent for other energy-intensive sectors. Imagine if we could crack the code on sustainable crypto mining. What kind of impact could that have on the world?
The possibilities are truly exciting. We could see a surge in innovation in renewable energy, more efficient hardware, and maybe even entirely new approaches to blockchain technology that we haven't even thought of yet.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a new frontier. The decisions we make today will shape the future of this technology, and maybe even the future of our planet. It's a lot to consider.
It is, but that's the beauty of it all. It's a challenge that invites us to think critically, to push boundaries, and to collaborate in finding solutions that benefit everyone. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next groundbreaking idea that changes the game.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with that final thought. The future of crypto is in our hands, so keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a more sustainable future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.